All right. Well, we are having people in here at the moment. Obviously, very big day for Milan, big day for us, because we are now back. We are back to being a duo for Milan content streaming. We have Streamyard here, and as you can see, MP up in the right corner. We got the black and red here working on in, so we're in a pretty damn good spot. But excited to be back, excited to do all this stuff. Before we get into everything, we just want to mention that we're just gonna be well, just to explain what the tweet was in general about what the plan is going forward between myself and Matt is to just bring Milan content as often as we can and make it high quality with great guests and have it topically relevant, just like today. So we're going to not only get into this extension of Ismael Bennacer, but we're also going to get into the Roma preview and kind of the landscape of Serie A, because Juve just won right now against Udinese. So they are now technically in second place, despite Milan still having a game in hand. But Juve have 8 straight victories like that. But Matt, first of all, we're back. How are you? How's everything been with Milan in terms of your opinion?
Hey, it's good to be back. This has been a tandem for many streams, right? You guys, of course, were following us back on Milan Reports. That was great. That was awesome. Martino went and did his own thing. I was doing my own thing with them, and here we are, right? Martino can't get rid of me, and I can't get rid of him. So,
Yeah, it goes both ways, man.
well, but it's yeah. I
Sorry,
see
go
John
ahead.
there. Come on, John.
John's here
Yeah,
and Sabrina,
you
another
know,
OG.
yeah.
So
It's great to be
so we
back.
got that going.
Um, I mean, I love this club. You love this club. We love creating
Hmm.
content. We love engaging with the Milan community. So it was a no brainer. It was a very simple uh, solution for us to get what we need out there. And yeah, I'm just happy to be doing this. And of course, what better way, right? It's some with some good news.
Mm.
Renewal with Bennacer, which we're going to talk about, and then tomorrow we have Milan Roma. We're going to preview that and allow you guys to weigh in and give us your thoughts on your expectations, the projected lineups, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, let's just get into it, right?
Mhm.
As you can see, Bennacer extends with Milan. We have the ticker and everything. Here's the official announcement. Di Marzio is the main one, but we have it in English here. So again, Milan have agreed to a contract extension, and this is massive news. And this is kind of something that we were talking about when we just came on here and streamed through Riverside, not the official setup, but it's really a great day for Milan. And again, if you guys have missed any part of this, we're going to be clipping the Benacer portion of this and putting it on my YouTube, so you can go and follow that. And then again, separate that with the Roma. But streams are streams; they're fun for hangout engagement. We love you guys. We love talking to you. Hopefully to have some of you back on here. But again, Matt, I had pretty good vibes about renewals. You did as well. I think we both did with Benacer more so than Rafael Leao, who I'm sure we could get into in the future. But again, Benacer 2027 contract extension is going up to 4 million net per season. That's right, around half a million less than what Teo Hernandez is getting. And the release clause is still included at 50 million euro. I would like to say this though. 50 million euro was the clause that was previously existing on Benacer's contract. So some people are freaking out already about that being in there. Yes, he's better than he's been, but also at the same time, he's not that much better this season than he's been in recent years. So I think if teams were really in on that 50 million clause, they would have done so by now. But again, nonetheless, he's staying here for the foreseeable future. This is huge, Matt, for Milan to lock this down. They lost Kessie for free. Obviously, Franks, Pobega, others are younger and not nearly as talented as obviously Tonali. But Ismael Benacer is one of these main core guys that's going to be here for the foreseeable future with Milan. And there's nothing but positivity about this.
Yeah, the just obviously running down through the finer details. I'm sure more information might come out about other aspects of this, how this sort of came about. But look, when you look at the figure, right, the wage figure, which is very important here, right? You have to be mindful of that as Milan, right? Because you're re-upping a lot of these
Always.
players. The money is coming from somewhere when it comes to the wage bill, the market. Like everything has to be kind of analyzed and looked at a little more closely than other bigger clubs due to the financial differences. And when you look at the figure that he's getting, I mean, that's a very good wage for the player. The player's getting rewarded for taking those exponential leaps in his game since his original contract dating back to 2019. You're getting, yes, the release clause is still in there, which I know that's a concern for a lot of people because they feel that maybe in this market, in this football landscape, is probably worth more than that. And you can make a claim, right? I know people are saying, well, Enzo Fernandez has a 120 million plus price tag on it. It's a different animal. And we know that a lot of times South American players do tend to get that little bit more jacked up value. That's just kind of what comes with the territory. But if
much younger as well.
Yeah, younger as well. And just coming off a World Cup victory. I think that's a great point too, right? That's something else I wanted to talk about. Everyone's looking at, and that's kind of maybe innocently in the culture of Milan fans, right? There's always the but. And I'm thinking to myself, we just locked up Sandro Tonali pretty recently ago to a long-term contract.
Correct.
Now we're locking up Bennacer, our core midfield, one of, if not the best midfield.
We got Teo this time last year as well.
Teo is locked up. Calabria, however you feel about him, is locked up. You're locked up Salamakers. You locked up Giroud's going to be coming very soon. Pobega. So, you have to look at the positives to this. Milan didn't shell out a ton of cash. They didn't overspend for this. I feel like this is a very fair wage that Bennacer is getting. And I think it also allows Milan to still do what they want to do on the market as far as, if they want to go out there and buy somebody else and have to maybe stretch the wage bill a little bit to get that premium player in there, because that's sometimes what you have to do, then they can. The wage is fair for both player and club. I'm very happy this gets done. I know there was a lot of pessimism regarding this, and I get that in the build-up. But I think, this is a really good reward for Milan. This is a really good reward for Bennacer, who's been a great servant to this club. He's really shown that he could take on a heavier role. He does it with so much consistency, very sharp. And look, there's people that can make the argument that, over the past couple of years, whether it be Tonali being the best, Kessie being the best, Bennacer, maybe consistency-wise, the best midfielder Milan have had since 2019 has been Bennacer. He's been very consistent. I know Tonali had the very rough first year, but Bennacer is very, very vital to the project.
Kessie regression last year.
And isn't it great that we're able to retain, this is my last point, isn't it great that we're able to retain a player like Bennacer, who not only from the fans' eyes is obviously very vital, very influential, and very important to the present and the future of this project. But we heard it from Sandro Tonali himself a couple weeks ago. He said Leao is very important in his own way. We know how good Leao is. We know how
said it again midweek.
But he did say, he's like, make no mistake about it. He was very clear. Bennacer's super valuable to this team as well. When you get that deal done, you don't think Tonali's looking at and saying, I got my partner signing long-term too? You don't think he's happy a little bit? I think he is. So this is a very good victory for Milan and a nice little gift ahead of the match tomorrow.
Yeah, so a couple things. Can't even forget to mention the Kalulu extension as well. Something massive over the winter as well. I really do think that this Bennacer thing, again, it's only a positive, man. Like, listen, we're talking about a 4 million euro per season player. Like, that's nothing. Kessie, remember, just a year ago was asking for 6.5. These are more reasonable. Hakan was asking this specific wage as well. So when Milan was sitting there saying, hey, we don't want to go forward and overpay these guys because they think they're worth this amount, like Teo and Bennacer are essentially on steals at this point, in my opinion, especially when I just got done watching Juve and you got Rabiot asking for more than 7 million net per season. Okay. So you always have to look around. And then again, I want to just move it really quick before we move on to the Roma stuff. At the end of this Di Marzio article, it's still been said that Giroud and Leao are the next two moves that Milan want to make in terms of extensions. We've heard Giroud through next season. He currently expires soon. And then Rafael Leao. And the latest was with Rafael Leao and that contract extension offer. And we'll just sneak this in the Bennacer video. The latest offer has been around 6.5 million net, plus 1.2 in bonuses. And then the lawsuit for Sporting is going to be left back to Lille. And both parties have agreed to leave that out of these contract talks, which is massive. And I really think it's important when you see people like Pippo Inzaghi even stepping in, Matt. I'm not sure if you saw his comments about Leao saying how unique it is to be a superstar at this club as opposed to
Sadorf
anywhere
too.
else.
Sadorf spoke
Yes,
about it too.
yes. That was the other one. Thank you. And that really speaks to it. And then you have Zlatan Ibrahimovic in your ear, who's been helping you since you have arrived. And again, I thought it was a very interesting statistic, and this is a great way to show that Milan are putting in a great offer for Leao, Matt. I don't think you saw this one, but Leao off of this latest offer from Milan, and what it would reach at 7.7 would be a top 25 paid player in the Premier League. That's pretty significant, to be honest with you, at his age. And coming from an Italian club like this in Milan, this is exactly what Redbird needed to do. If it wasn't a free spending type of January, you have to lock down the key players. They've done so, and that's all they've done since they've arrived.
Retention. And I talked about this. I think it was on our when we did the Riverside a couple weeks ago. I think in the build up to the holiday season, we talked about what makes a significant, what makes a dynasty, right? I know Milan, that's what the goal is right here, to win multiple trophies with this group, to take deep runs in the Champions League. Well, teams that tend to do those things retain top players. You look at the city eras, right? And I know we're pairing apples to oranges. The money's different, right? But hear me out here. David Silva, Yaya Toure, Kevin De Bruyne, like pillar players they were able to keep for years. Sergio Aguero. Like, you need to have those crops of players in a team if you're really going to have this thing be full of longevity. And I think that's what we're starting to look up and down this roster, right? You just mentioned it. We rattled off the names. Tonali, Calabria, Teo, your two midfielders, your two best midfielders. Like, there's no concerns there. You have two premium, young, controllable midfielders now that you can see at the heart of this project for the foreseeable future.
And Astor Franks.
Astor Franks. I mean, the buyout clause, like the guy is getting more nods and more reps over Pobega lately, which speaks volumes to, I think, what Pioli sees in him. I think he's a different profile. He offers something a little bit different, something that this Milan team needs.
Lacking,
so I think we want to look at the bigger picture here. And I know people saying, yes, we need to spend and we need to get more players. And I agree with you. I absolutely do. But I think you can't treat you have to also look at these things together and say, well, look, if we lost this player, can we get a player better on the market than Bennacer right now? Well, no, you can't. You really can't in this market. So the fact that Milan are able to retain these top players, and mind you, and Leao, of course, if we're able to get that done, these are players that they're not just like good Serie A players. Like,
they're elite. They're elite Serie A.
These are a handful of players that they're Champions League players. Teo, Leao, like, these are players that if they were having that conversation on a broader scale, and we're talking with Europe and a bigger picture, having that caliber of player that is able to be more so than just a Serie A performer. Like for example, Jack Bonaventura was a really good Milan player in Serie A.
Sure.
You think he would have done anything in the Champions League that's spectacular? Probably not, and that's no disrespect, but there's levels to this game.
There's just no way of knowing
with this Milan project. So when you're able to keep Bennacer, Leao looks like it's hopefully going to get done. I think Luca Bianchini from Gazzetta 2 came out with something earlier this morning. Things are picking up steam. There was a lot of negativity. We were going to lose both these players.
Yep, that was true.
Both of them.
That's true. Very true.
That's huge.
Well, thank you for bringing up some other stuff, because I almost forgot about this. So I think this one is also very important, and this is what we've seen from Skira, who I'm going to pull this up right now. Apologies for a little bit of a lag here, but he's just saying that they're preparing to send a bid to Atalanta, despite not wanting to wait until the summer. Mirante is more than likely on his way out. That would mean Vasquez, Tatarusanu. For me, it looks like this with the contract that's going for 3 years right now in Sportiello. For me, what it seems like the moves that are going to be signaling, Matt, are Vasquez, Sportiello, and Magnan for next year. And I think that's certainly the direction that they're moving in. I think right now they're going to carry a few goalkeepers. Obviously shedding weight with that, it's gonna be interesting, because they have to get rid of one of these guys. And again, 3-year contract for a pretty good Serie A goalkeeper over the course of his career for only 1 million net. And again, guys, if you remember, that's the amount of money that Antonio Donnarumma was getting paid at Milan. So to put into context,
just to be a cheerleader for his brother, essentially.
Hey, Coppa Italia coming midweek, so shout out to him, by the way, which we're gonna have to do something on that. Rate this move out of 1 out of 10. I think this is a solid 8 for the move that it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could put it in that 7 to 8 category, just for the simple fact you're not paying out a ton. If they do get him months before his contract expires with Atalanta, they probably have to pay a marginal fee. The wages are fine. And you're starting to see a lot more, right? With Milan having much more games on the docket, Champions League games, Supercoppa, Coppa Italia, the league. The games turn around quickly
So
and they
many.
pile up.
Yeah.
You need to have another goalkeeper in the event that your player gets a knock. And I'm not gonna. This isn't me saying Mike Magnon's injury prone, right? I think freak things happen, but look how many games we've needed to play with a backup this year. So it's important to have a backup.
Scary.
It's almost very, very much equivalent in a way to having a backup quarterback. Look how many backup quarterbacks are having to consistently play minutes for these teams, and the games are important.
We
All
know
the
my
points
team.
matter, and it's not that you saying, "Oh, well, they're playing Salernitana or they're playing this team or that team. They're not playing the big dogs." Yeah, but when you can throw in a guy like Sportiello versus a Tatu who, no offense, it's an upgrade, you feel a little bit more assured, a little bit more confident that an established Serie A goalkeeper that has experience in this league and has been pretty solid, all things considered, you can put him between the sticks, and you know that you're really not going to, be like, wow, this guy might have a blunder back there. He's not Magnon, but I think he's going to do a solid job and a better job than maybe Tatu
Like there's a
hold your breath when you're like Tatu Champions League.
Always. I've never been so nervous for a goalkeeper in my life. I'm not really. I don't even want to feel that way, obviously. Right. And again, too slow to get down on the ground for the shot that Salernitana scored. Again, I think it's in different situations. If Milan are going to put a goalkeeper under a ton of duress, what it really is we need a commanding shot stopper who has better reaction time than Tatarusano and is also better on call-outs when the ball is being sent in the box on set pieces. I think on set pieces, it's very scary.
It's more than Milan just getting a ball coming to you and saving it.
It's the trajectory of it, reaching there in time, the reaction time. He just doesn't have it. Tatarusano's too old and slow. And again, we saw Diego Lopez. So like the older Milan Bennacer teams, right? When we saw Diego Lopez come in, Diego Lopez was a significant difference and upgrade, and you could see Milan slowly picking up points. This was again during the Mihailovic time. And again, he obviously lost his job eventually to Donnarumma. But again, it's pretty crazy. But that's a ton of the market news that we've heard and seen about. And then one more small note, Matt, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, probably did, but Emil Roback has returned after a failed loan. So not looking too great for him. And Admiral's in here. Hello, Admiral. Great to see you again. Milan Reports type guy. But now we're going to venture into tomorrow's match. And obviously, we know this is one of the bigger matchups that we've had. We see the pressure now coming from Juve after leapfrogging us for the moment, ahead in second place. Napoli, we saw drop points. They have Sampdoria over the weekend. They face Juve on Friday. Obviously, everyone has Coppa Italia coming up soon as well. So obviously, massive fixtures inbound. This is a massive one for Milan. They haven't lost in a while to Roma. They've played them very well. But again, when it was close against them, who else was playing but Ciprian Tatarusanu? That was in that 3-3 draw. I don't know if you remember if you remember that a couple of guys. I think everybody does. They were ridiculous penalties on both sides, and this is where the whole chaos was going when Milan were getting so many penalties. But again, nonetheless, a big one. Most of the starting players that are supposed to be in there for Roma in terms of their best are going to be there. Same said for Milan. This is about Rafael Leao destroying the wings. The flanks here are everything in this match, Matt. Because of the simple fact is like centrally, can Roma actually affect and cause problem for Milan? Yes, absolutely. But Roma are lacking goal scoring, man. 19 goals this season is really subpar. It's middle of the road. And again, I think it's more astonishing with the type of talent that they have. Have they missed some time? Yes. But the big players that have lost the most time have clearly been Wijnaldum, and they've had defensive injuries. But good God, man, in Serie A, in the state of this league, you have Tammy Abraham, Bolotti, Dybala, Pellegrini, Zaniolo. Come on, you got to give me more than what's happening with Roma. Milan are in a good position here. There's some rumors that Chiesa might start.
That's the probable, I think, from Sky, I think.
Well, I saw that with Sky, and then GDS was saying Kalulu in the same 11 as we saw midweek. I think going with the same 11 midweek makes sense. I think putting in guys like De Ketelare and Astor Franks against Torino in the Coppa Italia seems likely as well. quite frankly, the way this season is going to shape up, man, I think they're going to prioritize the league, because these are heavy and important points that you have to come out with here.
Mhm.
Well, what's your overall sentiment going into this? We played against Roma so well. It doesn't seem like Mourinho is really handling Roma's mentality against better sides. Roma's still struggling against better sides. I talked about this with Wayne Gerard. He's saying the same thing. He's worried about this from a Roma standpoint.
Mhm.
As for Milan, just finish your chances and we're good. We're creating so many chances. Like that's kind of been the issue that you kind of worry about, right? Which was a point that I forgot to make. With Tatarusanu, the matches are going to be closer, and with that, he's more than likely to concede goals.
Mhm.
But the real problem is if Milan isn't finishing like they're capable of or should be, that makes the games closer. And you don't want these close with a Tatarusanu in that. I think what Milan need to do is put it beyond a reasonable doubt that they will win this game, similar to what they did last year in the winter with a 3-1 victory. Leao had that header when he put it forward and had that bullet right finish. We need more of that because Zlatan's back in training next week. So how are you feeling looking towards this match?
Um, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I think again, historically and in recent years, we've played Roma super tight, and we're getting on the winning end of a lot of these results, or most of them. I know the Twitter battle is going to go back and forth. Like, God forbid, there's a penalty tomorrow that goes in favor of Milan. We know we're going to hear this
Yeah.
again.
Oh yeah.
Um, the thing that worries me so much about this game is that we did play midweek Wednesday. We obviously have a game a game against a very good opponent tomorrow, but
Yeah.
we're also thin on the bench. Guys like Rebic, Origi, like we don't have a lot of guys to go to the well with. So like in the event that Giroud needs to come off, he's a little tired or whatever. Who are the first names off the bench? Like that's what's concerning to me.
Some of
Um,
the injury updates right here, by the way, if you
right,
want me to
right.
mention them. So, yeah, real quick, which is a great point by you. Macias and Origi are working to be available. This is from Vitiello, by the way, so
Mhm.
legitimate source. We only do legitimate sources on here. Again, Macias and Origi are working to be available against Torino or Lecce, which means
Yeah.
as soon as next week. Rebic should not recover from the super. It's worded a little weird, but that's the translation from Italian sometime. But it's saying that he's probably not going to be ready for the Super Cup, and that's Rebic. Krunic hopes to return for that. And then Ibra's goal is to return in February for the match against Spurs in the UCL. So that's where Milan is in terms of injuries.
So, I mean, look, who do you have? I mean, CDK, he's one of the names off the bench.
Adley is probably going to have to be a
Adley,
player to feature
strong.
in this. Is
Maybe
it
maybe in defense you're getting Malik Chow if Kalulu doesn't come in and you want to put it
Dest feature
yes.
at right wing? I think that's
So
a possibility.
you have some guys, but something that was kind of coming into the season as a bit of a strength, or at least to a little bit stronger position when it comes to the bench and depth. It's getting a little bit thinner by the day here. And
Torre
that's
injury as well was massive.
Torre,
Milan don't have a
right?
backup
Like,
left back. I think we see more of it. Florenzi,
mhm.
Calabria, and Dester on the right side. You see Kalulu flex again on the left.
So
We've seen that in the past, and this is kind of what hurts when you give someone away like Milos Kerkez, who's playing pretty well in Holland. So
yeah, so that's my biggest concern is, look, if we don't put this game in a position where we're in um, optimally in front and comfortably, we can kind of go to secure the victory. And it's one of those
yeah.
games where, hey, we need to unlock this game. Let's say we go down, we trail in the game, or it's 1-1 and we're trying to push for a win. Our options are limited coming off the bench. So, I don't know how many minutes CDK is going to play. I know Pioli spoke about CDK in the media, and he was saying, how he trusts him. He's mentally and physically there. And there was people who I know there was a couple people who were saying, well, why don't you start him? And blah, 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 blah. I
Yeah.
think there's a time and place for it. I think, look, Brahim has put forth some pretty good performances this year. Of course, in a prove it year, right? Because I think Milan
He played well again.
no, he did. And he's playing pretty solid this year. In a year where Milan kind of have to make a decision one way or the other on what they're going to do with him. But you need to have options, and people are starting to see, right? Like I think that people are starting to kind of understand, like, hey, it's a long season. Players get random knocks, and all of a sudden you're looking on the bench and you're like, who do we got? So I think that Milan really do need to put this is not, especially in a match like this, they really do need to finish off their chances, because if it's one of those matches where they need to claw to get a goal or claw to kind of keep things in check, then your options are limited for difference makers that can actually go and give you instant impact off the bench. There's a lot of good players with talent. Let me be clear with that. But
Yeah.
you know, if you're down, you're not bringing in Asta Franks to score a goal. Like I know he had that assist before
Whatever the situation against Fiorentina.
you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
this game is gonna what I'm basically
Could it be a feature of Lacetic? Yeah.
It could be. This game is gonna call on somebody else to do something. It may not be a layout dominance and where he gets 2 goals and Giroud scores. Giroud had a ton of chances. He missed quite a few in the game against Lerner.
Missed a hat trick. He missed a hat trick.
You're hoping those guys, if those guys do what they do, then Milan will be fine. But if it comes to the point where Milan needs someone else and it's not quite working for the guys that you often rely on, you got to have someone like a CDK. Does CDK get his first goal? He's close. He's close. I think he
played well last match.
That good form. So hopefully this is the moment where he can kind of get that goal and maybe get that key assist, and maybe he's the guy that comes up big for Milan.
He looked a lot more confident on the ball, aggressive, the types of things that you need to do. I think he had one poor run where Rafa sent in the ball on the far side when Rafa dribbled past the guy on the right. And then again, he was too hesitant in front of goal on the first one. Just rip it. I think he was just a little too nervous seeing how Ochoa was saving these 1v1s. I will say, by the way, Brahim Diaz is reportedly does not have this option to purchase. So apparently this is his end of his spell at Milan, basically these next 6 months. I think that's why you start seeing some Awar links as well. We'll see what Milan does. It's definitely interesting. Did we mention Mirante going to Spezia? Yeah, we did, Admiral. We were just mentioning how Sportiello is an option for Milan, and that means Mirante on his way out. Would be nice to have that. Maybe Spezia finally helping us again, because they got that draw against Atalanta midweek. So again, predictions like we usually do. So this is the 11 from GDS. Shout out to sempremilan.com for posting this on their Twitter. Just our logo here in the top right is blocking that out. Shout out to Luis Boga, by the way. He is a friend of myself. Pep Barisha helped with all these graphics. So shout out to him. He does terrific work. Matt and I are going to look into having more legitimate stuff so I don't have to prowl my Twitter. But again, that's what time. And again, I know I keep saying it again. If you have not already, please follow us here on Twitch Prime sub. If you have that, feel free to do so. Just basically everything that we are getting, if we get it physically, it's just going right back into this stuff, just so it's self-sustaining. And we love having you guys on here. But now it's prediction time like we usually do. So guys, put in your comments on what you think your prediction is for this match. This is something that we always used to do while we discuss this. So yeah, I think one question I do have about some of these Roma players, Matt, are their fitness. I mean, Zaniolo and Dybala both came off early in the match earlier this week.
Dybala cramping, and Zaniolo, I think, was it calf
fatigue. And again, I was telling Wayne this. They need 90 minutes to beat Milan. To draw, maybe. If they go ahead, we'll see. But Milan play better behind than they do in front. I don't see Roma's just not in a good run of form, and it's just been really poor from them. And Milan can create some chances, man. And these matches are always kind of feisty too. And it's not the kind of match that Roma want to get involved in. We do have to worry about a couple of yellow cards. Again, Lecce and Colombo's looming the match day after this. Who I actually kind of want to talk to after this, the prediction part, if you want. For me, I think this is a 2-1 win. I hope we don't concede. There's something about Tammy Abraham being in a hibernation and him waking up against his former youth academy and Chelsea teammate.
Roma win last week.
Yeah, and he scored against us last time. It was at home at San Siro. Again, I think this really beckons Pellegrini and a Dybala to step up in this type of environment. They need this. I don't think, as the way things are going in Serie A, Matt, like it's going to be the big four making it, and that's Napoli, the Milan clubs, and Juve to the Champions League. Roma needs to do this now, is my point.
Yeah, they got to step up now. They got to make their push now. Well, my prediction, I'm going to double down. I'm going to go 2-1, 4-1, Admiral. remember Admiral always would have like the
Big scorelines.
yeah, he'd be like it'd be like a FIFA match, like 5-3 Milan or something. Uh, I'm gonna go 2-1. I think being in front of the home crowd for the first time this year is gonna be important. I think that we've kind of gotten around the issue of a couple of years ago where we were so good away. We had like the best away record in Serie A. And then all of a sudden at home, we were very patchy. I think that having the home crowd behind us is going to be huge. Whether it be Kalulu or Kair, that's going to be interesting because I think, you mentioned it, Tommy Abraham, like he hasn't kind of broken out and had that sort of run of games where he's prolific, he's scoring goals with.
They were so prolific in the Conference League last year. It's
Yeah.
such an exaggerated amount of goals that he scored, even though I like him as a player. But
yeah, no, I think they have guys they could beat you. Like that three-headed attack right there, right? Is it's one of the I mean, you could make a case it's one of the better in Serie A, right? Like Dybala when he's fit, very creative, influential. We know what he can do when he's fit. Same thing with Zaniolo. Again, there's the caveats being fit. So ultimately, does Mourinho give them 60 minutes to preserve them? Maybe. Who knows? We don't know what really their position is currently right now because you mentioned they both came off in the game against that they won. They won.
Was it
1-0.
Bologna? Was
Yeah.
it Bologna?
I think it was. So I'm going to go 2-1. I think that Milan become a little bit sharper in front of goal. Maybe they don't get as many chances, but I think they're going to be a little bit more sharper. I think they're going to be a little bit more advantageous and a little bit more efficient in front of goal, which is going to be huge. I think this game is going to be tight. I don't think Milan are going to run away with this, like Admiral's saying. I would love that, obviously, a nice cozy, cushy 4-1 win would be nice because I think we haven't really shown the capacity to bury teams this year. All the games seem very close. I think the Monza game was lopsided. That was like 4-1. But aside from that, every game feels like I'm sweating it out to the final seconds. So I think this is going to be one of those as well. But this is kind of a little bit more justified, right? Because Roma are a good team. I'm going 2-1. And I'm going to say for goal scorers, if anyone wants to do their anytime goal score props, I know you're a big better guy.
I'll provide my link.
And I'm going to go Teo. Okay. I think Teo actually looked a little tired in the game against Salernitana. For whatever reason, like I feel like we didn't see his name kind of come up and out.
I don't think he needed to work as much. What it was is because Salernitana were pressing so high that they were just getting caught out from behind, and they were playing. The Salernitana had one of the worst approaches to face Milan I've ever seen. Like, that was horrendous. They were doing the high press against a team that is clearly normal or used to it at this point. And then again, they have the guys that could beat you with the speed on the outside, and they were allowing Leao to be 1v1. Tonali picked them apart, destroyed them. I thought it was terrific. Admiral asked a question for us real quick. Yes. Just to readdress this, we mentioned this at the start. We plan on having different guests over the course of our time doing this as well. So today it's just myself and Matt. We will have guests and people that are fans of other clubs and content creators as well, journalists. We hope to as well. But yeah, and again, what was funny about all the high scoring that you're talking about, the high scoring Milan games this season, Matt, have been in do or die Champions League matches. Salzburg was 4-0. We scored 3 against Dinamo Zagreb, who is a notoriously tough team at home. And Milan's been able to do that.
Champions League DNA, right?
I mean, it's unfortunate where it was against 3 goals against Empoli. 2-0 against Juve was a great showing. 4-1 Monza, 4-0 Zagreb.
Like I would love not this game. I don't think it's gonna happen. But like I need a bloodbath. Like I'm talking like a wallop of a team, like
maybe against Lecce. I mean, Lecce looks pretty good this year, but I want that beat down. I know, but we draw against Cremonese like 0-0. So I wanted to go and talk about our guy Lorenzo Colombo. I think it's kind of important to give him this sort of attention because he has played very well recently. I won't put up the highlights, but there was a couple of things about his form. Yeah, so we could just go right here. This was the form that he's in. Goal against Udinese, assist against Atalanta, goal and assist against Sampdoria, goal against Lazio. And those are just in his recent matches. So Colombo himself playing incredibly well, Matt, for a player of his age. For me, I was thinking about this yesterday because we were doing this, and I just was thinking,
4 goals,
okay,
2 assists.
sorry again.
4 goals, 2 assists for him on the year.
Yeah. So again, just to get the match log up as well. We saw him kind of struggle with Spal last year, but was scoring banger after banger. It was a really difficult situation. A lot of these Serie B sides and lower tier sides, they're not the best run clubs from top to bottom. That's kind of obvious from just like a standpoint of they're not in the top flight league, but just like the drop off in standard between teams and leagues is it's incredible discrepancy between the two. So again, scored against Napoli earlier this year. So two big teams, one of the seven sisters, or two of the seven sisters that he scores against, Sampdoria, an assist for Atalanta, and then Udinese. Matt, it's production, and it doesn't matter where it's coming from. He's played 9 matches. He has 6 goal contributions. This is a very young kid. Strikers take longer to develop as well. He's only 20 years of age. He's turning 21 in March. For me, I really like what I've seen on his 2 loans. He's scoring goals that are of high technical ability. They're really impressive almost every single time I see a Lorenzo Colombo goal. He does nothing but score bangers. Has he done enough just yet to warrant a return to Milan as a third choice striker next year, where you put Lasetic out on loan if he's not within the main squad? Does you still have Giroud? Origi's kind of that flex striker, and then whatever the situation is with Zlatan, does Zlatan stay? Milan are going to need someone a little bit more reliable. They can't keep doing this whole charade with Giroud week in, week out at his age.
Mhm.
It's just not sustainable. Do you think he has a path to the fight? There's a lot of games left. There's 22 matches. He needs to show a lot more. What would he need to show over these next 22 matches for you to say come back to Milan? Is it 10 goals?
I think it's tough to look at stats in a vacuum because I think, look, you can look at certain players and you're like, wow, like, I can't believe he scored 10 goals this year. And like you're like, yeah, but like what's like the context matters, right? And I think, I'm not discrediting, I'm not taking anything away from what Colombo's doing because in some of the matches that he has scored, like again to your point, like he scored very technically sound goals that require more than just a tap in, right? I know people said this and hung this over the head of Patrick Cutrone when he was with Milan, right? Like he had he had this sort of sense for the goal, right? He would always be like in the positions where he would just tap the ball in and do this, and those things are important. I'm not if it was so easy, then everyone would do it, right? Like people said that about like people, like okay, he does this, he does that. I'm like, yeah, but if everyone was able to do that, then they would have had the career that he had. So I think Colombo is still very young. I mean, 20 years old. I mean, this is very important production. This is very important season for him. And I liken this to what we had with Tommaso Pobega, where he was, Serie B, and then he's got his feet wet in Serie A, and he had a good like body of work in Serie A, where he's getting 20 plus games. He's starting pretty consistently. I think that's kind of what I want to see with Colombo. I think something like this would be important where, let's say for the conversation's sake, he puts up 7 goals and 3 assists on the season, and he plays in 30 games, right? 28 to 30 games. I think that would warrant him to say, hey, let's come back. Let's bring him back. And maybe he goes back on loan to a team like a Sassuolo, a team that's kind of very steadily in Serie A, where he's playing with better talent. He's playing in a better system that's conducive for him to get goals. And I think that's kind of what the pathway is. The last thing I would do with him is bring him back. And now you have 2 young strikers competing for minutes that maybe aren't there.
For a team that's in the Champions League,
you can't have both Lasetic and Colombo as your as like backup options.
I agree.
I think you're going to be able to give them ample minutes for them to do what they got to do. Yeah. So I think, given the fact that they spent a significant sum for a teenager in Lasetic, right? I think it was like 4.5 to 5 million on a teenager.
5 million, yeah.
And from what I've seen from Lasetic in a lot of the academy games and the friendlies, this kid's got it. Like he's got like a little bit of moxie about him too. When he scores goals, he had the Panenka in the penalty shootout. Like he's a player that intrigues me because I think that when Milan scouted him and like that name came about, everyone was like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah,
but
he was highly rated out of Serbia.
Old management and old scouting and old directors, I would have said, this is kind of a weird move. But we've seen the same thing with Vasquez too, right? Like out of nowhere, there's a reason for that, I think. Like they like you don't just go out of
They've
like
been
the
following
area.
him for months. It's not,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
They're not just like throwing a dart at a dartboard. Let's get him and spend 5 million.
yeah. They never do
So
that. No.
I think that let's go with Lasicic. I want to get him more minutes, but I think it's good, healthy competition that maybe in preseason, look, you have both these players. Pioli gets to see what they can do, and then makes a decision one way or the other. But I think it's important that he's getting these minutes and he's doing it in Serie A football versus Serie B football, where to your point, it could be a mess, right? Coaches getting
Yeah.
fired, inconsistent play, Spall. Like some of these teams aren't very steady. They're not consistent. They don't put out the same sort of results, and they're kind of up and down. So if he's able to play this well for Lecce, if Lecce do get relegated, let's call it, and he goes and stays at a team that's in that 10 to 14 threshold, where he could be like a backup option, I think that would do his career well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm trying to get the best. These apps suck. These sites suck. This is why.
Oh, ads. Yeah.
Nah, it's not even that. Well, because so like I'm just trying to like compare their stats for this season. So squad and player stats. Shooting. It's got to be individual. I want individual squad. No, player shooting. Let's get goals in here. Okay, so goals we have Victor Oshman. Where's goals per 90 minutes played. Where would be the goals per 90? I don't even see that. Well, either way, we can go over here. Lorenzo Colombo is tied for 20th in goal scoring, and he's played by far the fewest minutes when it comes to some of these players. I mean, he's ahead of the likes of Tammy Abraham, to put it into context. He's having a better season than Tammy Abraham right now in Serie A. This isn't a guy that's being rated super highly. I mean, Luka
It's not easy to score in
Jovic.
this league too.
No, it's
For any
not. Luka
player, let alone a young
Jovic,
player.
Chucky Lozano, like these are, these are players that are supposed to be higher up there. Milik, Giroud, only one more goal. Dybala, Dusan Vlahovic, only 2 more goals. I mean, we have Rafa here at 7, and so he doesn't take penalties. For me, it's like, what do they see him as future wise? Is he a future Milan player, or is he, like, I think worst case, someone that they sell for a good amount of money? And I wouldn't completely roll that out. It's for me with Lazetic is someone that they want to like fully. I think what Milan have proven is that they could scout players that are pretty good and first team ready that they sign onto their team, like an Astor Franks, and they know how to develop them and bring them along. They've done a great job of that. Milan of the past years were not capable of doing that. And I also think they've gotten better where they send their players on loan. I think Pobega was perfect loan situation both times. Spezia, then Torino, properly developed, still was offers around 20 million. I think he's gone this summer. I think we've seen enough. And I'm happy for him. Again, Yassine Adli, worst case, what we're looking at here, Matt, is they're selling for profit. Same thing with Hauger. Hauger didn't have quite the season that people would have expected. Mm-hmm. He made an impact off the bench that helped them get top 4 goals against Napoli, goals against Sampdoria that helped get some points for them. What Lazetic is now is what they were saying at the time was, because it was just the same month in which Dusan Vlahovic left, another Serbian striker that was signed in Serie A at a very young age and took a couple of years to develop, was in the U system, and then obviously started to get more minutes. And he was someone that you discussed with Nemanja a bunch, who's a good friend of ours, big Serbia fan, loves the NBA and Nikola Jokic for obvious reasons. Yeah. But I think the point remains is like, if Milan are capable of developing and taking that new height to what Dortmund does, is where they get a super blue chip talent that's around the age of 17, similar to Lazetic. And if they're able to bring him along as one of the more talented young strikers in Serie A, first of all, they could get a paid loan for that. And someone would want to bring him along. Like, what if Atalanta came to us and was like, hey, Lazetic, we would like to take him on? This is just, again, theoretically, that I'm not saying this would happen. I think there's so many different paths to what they can do. And they just got to hit one time on a striker.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a little bit, it's like a lottery. Like, if you take a couple, you can either try and spend 40 to 50, 60 million on a Jonathan David. And I think I wouldn't be opposed to that. Or you can say, hey, we don't have the means right now to do so, but we have 3 to 4 guys that we really do like. And I think if one of them pans out, you consider it a success, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's perfect, right? I think you see what all these teams like, it's if you can find a way to retain. That's why I said like if you can find a way to retain players like Milan's doing, and they're able to usher along one player that cost you 5 million, and all of a sudden in 2 years the
He's
guy's a
worth
double-digit
20.
goal scorer, and
Yeah.
you got him for 5 million. You hit the jackpot there. In this market, it's so difficult to find strikers. And that's exactly why I always preface this every time I have conversations with people who say Milan need a striker long term. And I go, give me a name that we can get right now.
Can't afford one. Can't
And they
afford
really
one.
can't. They're like, well, this player, that player, Jonathan David. I'm like, can you realistically think he's going to go for anything less than 50 million?
And I wouldn't even pay that for Jonathan David as much as I like him as a striker. He's not.
Marcus Thuram's not a bad player. I don't.
I just like it's just the wage that you're gonna have to deal with on a Bosman. For me, it's this. It's can Milan have taken a good job of scouting similarly to Dortmund, to the RB Leipzigs, or just any of
Monaco
the
years
Red Bull
ago
teams of the
with
world?
Moncada.
They've done a very good job. And I've said this. How many you could back me up on this? I've said this for years and years. If Milan can just get to the point where they could develop their guys like this, yeah, it's inevitable that you're going to have to sell players. Manchester City sells players. All these teams sell
Yeah.
players, right? I mean, for God's sakes, Real Madrid sold Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, think about that. It's true. So, like, it happens.
PSG doesn't really sell players.
And they don't, but you know what? They don't win the Champions League, so whatever.
They sold a couple young players though.
Yeah.
With
Well,
Robbie
which is
and
hilarious because they don't know what they're doing with that. But I think the important thing for me is what I was trying to say is that if Milan can just get to that level where they produce top blue chip level players that are some of the best young talent, like say we get another Rafael Leao, but Leao is like our guy through and through. Like we didn't purchase him from Lille for 30 million. We have our own Yusuf Makuku that Dortmund have. We have that type of player. What happens then is you're more inclined to stay at Milan for years because Milan can not only end up paying those wages, you're barely going to find a better club than that. And the point has been made that about Rafael Leao is like, where's he actually going to go that would want him? That's a left winger that could pay more money than Milan. That's more prestigious than Milan. You know, in terms of checking off all the boxes
right.
that also need Leao, we're talking about like barely anyone that could eventually afford it and then also want to pay 120 million euro. They're not going to.
I
So
think
like
there's and again I don't want to go on and on about it because we've been
I can't help myself. This is what happens when we
when
move
you and I get together. This is what happens. 30 minutes becomes 45. But
on.
I
We'll
think
end up
look,
here, yeah.
it's bigger picture. And I'm glad players. This is my last point. I'm glad players like Bennacer, Teo, hopefully Leao, if they can get that deal over the line, are thinking bigger picture because this could have been Gigio. Donnarumma could have made the same exact decision. He could have said, you know what? I'm getting paid 6 million. I'll take 8. I'll be here for 5-6 years. Milan won't hold me against my will. Should I want to go explore a different challenge elsewhere? And I think he would have left. If Leao signs a new deal and he leaves in 3 years' time, and maybe let's say Milan makes a couple more deep runs in the Champions League, maybe he wins that other Scudetto, maybe
maybe one.
and then they sell him. No one's gonna be screw this guy, blah 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 blah. They're gonna be thanks for the 6 years of service. We appreciate everything you did. We understand the business. We understand the sport, the landscape. We understand the money that challenges elsewhere. We get it.
Because you're also right. Because even if that's the case, best case scenario, Milan still won't have a stadium built in time. They're still not going to be that highly successful Champions League level. So you would think if they weren't, they are like good. I'll eat crow. I would love that. But the point remains is that Milan are on track to be what they used to be in terms of dominance and like self-sustain. Like I'm not asking us to be as powerful as the top Premier League sides because you need to be a Premier League team in order to do that. In the sense of that, I want us to be a Bayern. I think we have the capability of being a Bayern. And not to say like dominate the entire league, but be the best scouting team in the league, be the best run team in the league, be the team that has great international presence, which they do already. Go deep into the Champions League again. And, you know, like you pay your top players to stay. Like they kept Louis forever and they sold him for like 35 million with 1 year left on his deal. Incredible legend. They got everything out of him that they needed. They won a Champions League, multiple league titles. Like I want that for Milan eventually. I'm not saying like I need to be Real Madrid. it's not possible within the next 5 to 10 years. It's just not. But I'm saying we could get a lot closer to what Juve was mid 2010s. I think it's possible. And I think we're on the right track, and it's moves like this. So, real quick, I know it's the last question, but I love asking these questions. If Milan were to make an actual purchase this window, do you see that happening, and what position would that be? It would be opportunistic, like we always mention, right? Like there is a great player that they love, like that they see pop up. Like, Lacetic came out of nowhere, and he wasn't really on the radar like that. I know it was only 5 million, but could you see that happening, or are you perfectly content with the 3 extensions?
I think I have to. Look, I'm gonna have to be content. I don't think I have really a choice.
Sure.
And the reason why I say that is because you kind of look at when you can project to get a lot of these guys back, right? Like you said, Ibrahimovic, February, Rebic, Origi, like all these guys are probably kind of going to be coming back to like health end of January, early February, and then
So we
that's
think.
going to be sort of the excuse for not spending. Well, we have 5 guys coming back. And then do you really think they're going to go out there and get on Tacker? Well, we got Alexis Salamakers.
Yeah, no, exactly.
The conversation isn't whether or not I think they need to upgrade in that position. The conversation is, well, you got 3 guys there. Do you think they're just going to get a 4th? Like that's basically the conversation. That's kind of where I'm coming. So if they don't get anybody, I'd be surprised. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I just remembered the Santos kid. That on right wing. There's some
Bro,
rumblings there. There's some rumblings, but the
think
rumblings are they want 20. We're at 15.
rumblings this, rumblings
Hey,
that.
yeah, no, I know. But the funny thing is,
I've seen it so many times where Milan are
I know
in the race.
but it's not going to happen because they're saying they want 20. We offer 15.
And then Real Madrid or Barcelona or Sevilla says, well, we're going to pay 25. And then they get him and he wants to being a star. And everyone's saying, see, Maldini didn't do his job.
Yeah, like, there was a Premier League club apparently interested that are like interested. I think it was Spurs that are interested in paying like 20, 25.
It's a different animal. And the majority of these kids coming from South America and other countries, the allure, the draw of the Premier League and the money and the financial gain that brings to them and their family, like they're not going to pass that up. And I don't fault them for it. But if Milan came, and Milan's a great club. If Milan came to you and said, hey, we can offer you 1 million or 1.5 million a season, and then like some Bournemouth comes, no offense to Bournemouth fans if you're in the chat, Bournemouth comes and offers you this much money, that's 3 times what Milan are offering, and they offer a bigger fee to the club, he's going to the Premier League. We all know that because of exposure and opportunity. It's just kind of how it is. So but that's what I said, right? Retaining players puts a brighter light on the project because it's saying you can draw in those talented players saying, look, we got Teo, we got Leao, we got Tonali, Tomori, Kalulu, and Magnon, and you're like, let's go, let's play there. We didn't have that draw a couple years ago. So that's the importance and strength behind the project. It's taking more time, yes, until we get to where we want to be, but we're on the right track, and that's the end of my stance.
Yeah, so. Perfect. Sabrina, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. Totally appreciate that. Sabrina. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Oh, it's 1-1 according to Admiral. Matteo Darmian scored the first goal. Monza apparently have leveled up, so that's pretty good news for Milan in that sense. I had over 2.5 in this game, so I also had under 1.5 on the Monza side of things. Again, guys, really appreciate it. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt_Santangelo. Follow me on Twitter at Martino Puccio. You probably do both already. At AC Milan Bros. Is right. I didn't forget anything in the handle there. Follow that on
Facebook and Instagram. Yep.
Okay, yep. And then subscribe to my YouTube channel. Martino Puccio is just my name. And then follow the Twitch here, or subscribe if you choose to do so. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, so look out for TikToks as well. Nick, thanks so much for tuning in. That's your brother, Nick, by the way.
Yes.
So appreciate that. Always love talking to you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we'll try and be back post-match tomorrow, and we will also try and do a preview for Coppa Italia. We'll see how that goes. If anything, I'll try and get a guest if you're too busy. Other than that, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.